How do, and welcome to Fierce Feedback Lockdown Episode 4. Hi, Liz McCurry.
Hello, how's it going? Will
All right.
Goldstone. Never say your
Yeah.
name.
No, you don't. I always get
Because
left
I
out.
know it. I assume everyone else does.
No, I'm not that well known.
Knowledge work.
Now, Liz, it's Episode 4.
Already?
We're still at home. I've got a corker of a game. I'm looking at it. It's sat right here. I've got a corker of a game this week. I'm pretty excited.
I thought you were going to say I've got a call. I've just got a call.
Can I just shoot off for a minute? Can you just hold, please?
You just entertain.
A corker of a game. I think I've nailed it this week.
Texted me about it with glee earlier and it got me worried.
Yeah. Well, I checked. So we do a little Twitter vote every week for each other's game, and people would tell us which one is going to be the winner. And I noticed that you have 100% of the vote for this week just gone. So I think that the winner is going to be Ghost Hunter rather than Lock On, unfortunately. But I'm feeling pretty confident. But I think it's your turn to go first, is it not?
It is. It's me, isn't it?
All right. Let's do that.
I just want to check that I got my Jamie fact in time.
Yeah, JFAX. Jamie, yeah. Video gamey.
It's a good one. Video gaming. It's a good
Friend
one.
Of the show.
I literally just texted him and was like, I forgot to text you. This is my game. And he, within 30 seconds, responded with some trivia.
Excellent. Well,
so every week Will comes to First Feedback with a new fangled thing. So the second week he showed his game on the background as a film while he spoke about it. I've not done that. And then he got a fancy new camera. I've not done that. I can just sit at different angles though, if that helps. And Will also didn't do a game, he did a peripheral. I'm not doing any of that. But what I've got,
peripheral? It's a toy. It's a legitimate toy, all right?
It's a beautiful toy.
It's a game. Sorry, I interrupted you. What have you brought me, Liz? Regale me.
I've brought you the same old I brought you the same old formula, but I hope you're paying attention because there's going to be a quiz.
Okay, I'm listening.
Right. You ready for me 3 clues?
Yes, love a clue.
Okay. The first one is that this game was originally proposed as a follow-up to the critically acclaimed multiplayer first-person shooter Unreal Tournament. Now, I am not a first-person shooter. Very good at it. What's that called? Like
someone who can't talk properly?
I don't usually play first-person shooters, although I am playing Prey at the moment.
Cool. How is it?
Quite captivated by it, actually. Yeah, like I've said before, the only first-person shooter I've played really all the way through is Fear.
Great game.
But yeah, this was originally proposed as a follow-up to a first-person shooter, Unreal Tournament.
So Unreal Tournament, as in the original one, Unreal Tournament.
Yep, the original Unreal Tournament.
Gives me a window. Okay, next clue.
In February, before the release of this game, which was in March 2008, this game was banned in Australia based on its violence, in particular its finishing moves. Silent Hill Homecoming was also banned in Australia, but it's not that. It's also not Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's all I could think of was like finishing. I'm just thinking of other brutal things like Manhunt and stuff like that, but they would have nothing to do with Unreal Tournament. And I don't think you would bring Manhunt to this show. It would be a little bit unlikely.
I thought of the third clue.
You got any more clues?
I've got one last final clue, but I don't think it will help anybody, even me. Because I thought that last week when I did the comparison to Brad Pitt, it went down so well that I'd try and do another one.
Okay.
So the main character from this game kind of looks like Gerard Way from the Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge era of My Chemical Romance.
If that helps me get it, I'd give you the money myself. It's not the case, unfortunately.
Shall I do the reveal?
Please reveal this week's game.
This week's game is the 2008 PlayStation 3 title and Xbox 360 Dark Sector.
How do you keep... Where are these games from?
This was a great game.
I don't understand.
This was the first game I played for PlayStation 3.
Was it? So is this... When did PS3 come out? It feels like it's 2007, right? Something like that.
He does look like Gerard Way, though, doesn't he?
He just looks a bit like Prince of Persia.
He looks like Gerard Way.
Oh, okay, yeah, he does. The kind of the face that's a little bit too small for the overall head height. That kind of feel.
Young boy.
A lot of hair. A lot of emo.
Don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so this was in 2008. It was released in Europe, a third-person shooter. Single player was the campaign I played. There is a multiplayer mode. Didn't play it, got no friends. So the reason I chose this game, two reasons. Well, many reasons. I love it. Two reasons in particular was because I know you enjoy a bit of Prototype.
Yeah, love it.
Very, very, very prototypey. But Prototype was the year after.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? So the second reason that I chose it is because the loading screen from Ghost Hunter reminded me of the weapon in Dark Sector, which is this glaive.
Is this going to be a boomerang scenario where it's pinging all around?
And it works beautifully and it's amazing. But anyway, so I'm just going to give you a bit of a premise and then we'll jump into the quiz. Okay?
Promise me.
So it was developed by Digital Extremes, a Canadian video game developer. If you haven't heard of them, you may have heard of them by proxy, as they worked with 2K to develop the comic book franchise video game sequel, The Darkness 2. I didn't play The Darkness 2, but I love The Darkness 1. That was so good. Jackie. And they also developed the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3 version of BioShock, and they also did the multiplayer mode in BioShock 2.
Yeah, nice.
So the story is, there's some beginning prologue.
That's almost you're like, tell the story of this game. It's so exhausting.
Well, at the beginning, there's a submarine that's sort of faffing about doing something, and it. I don't know. Yeah. I've not played it for a while. I think it's set in a fictional city in like Soviet Russia. And there's a submarine.
As in Soviet era?
Yes, like at the end of the Cold War.
Right.
So the submarine, I think it crashes, something goes off, and this virus escapes.
Oh no.
So your main man, Gerard Way, real name.
Real pretend name?
Hayden. Real name Hayden Tenno. Yeah. He works for the CIA. Yeah. And he is notorious in the CIA, as everyone is, because he's like the cleanup man. So he has a disease that I didn't write down because I couldn't pronounce, that means that he can't feel pain.
How is that a disease?
A condition.
Okay. Sure.
You can catch it and then you don't feel pain. I don't know. It's a condition, I think.
Got it.
I never fact check science in games. It's just fine. So they usually send him in when another agent has died and he's like the cleanup man. He like does all the dangerous stuff.
Well, usually when you say a cleanup man, that usually means they've got to cover something up. Like a cleaner. Is that not what you mean?
he's
What do you mean that someone else has messed it up? He's got to take care of business.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Hayden, Jeff has fucked it up again. Can you go sort it out? He's like,
I don't know why they keep Jeff on staff. What a Wally.
Did it again. So what a Wally. So he's sent in because there's an ex-CIA agent who's running amok. His name...
CIA agent.
CIA agent. His name's Robert.
What is this? Please tell me you're not going to give me a quiz on who was the guy who kept fucking up. Definitely Jeff. Who was that in afterwards? Robert. What is this story, Liz? What's going on? Tell me about the fucking game.
So long story short, Hayden goes off after Robert. The virus has already made its way on land. Robert
got legs. What is this?
Robert
I'm ashore and went, oh, I'm out.
Robert overpowered Hayden. Pardon?
Is it like The Fog? Like John Carpenter's The Fog? Is it just creeping?
Oh, I was going to say it's not got as harrowing an ending. But
I haven't seen it, no spoilers.
So Robert, you bad guy, has got Hayden like in death grip. It's nearly time to go. It's nearly time to kill him. This creature shows up called, give you one guess.
Jeff.
No, but it's another friend who's got a man's first name.
Steve.
Neil. So a character turns up called Nemesis, Nemesis, right, and injects the virus into Hayden. Now, because the way that the virus works is that usually what would happen is it would take over the host and turn them metallic. And that process of being turned into metal would be so painful that it would kill the host. Oh man, like Hayden.
Colossus from X-Men or something.
Yeah. Maybe not so witty. He's quite witty, isn't he?
He does have a few quips.
So my man Hayden, with his disease/condition, doesn't feel it, takes on the virus, grows a glaive hand.
Oh, sorry, say that again?
A glaive hand.
Is that you mispronouncing glove?
No, it's a glaive.
What the hell is a glaive?
This is a glaive.
Oh, you mean he's not holding a thing?
That's his hand that grew out his arm.
Oh.
And it comes back.
It does look like he's holding it though, doesn't it?
It grows out his arm.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Sorry, that's his face, not the glaive. Sorry. That's it, look.
So it grows out of his arm, it goes chunk, 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 and then he can lob it and it comes back.
Yeah, and it chops people's heads off. Oh, it's so satisfying. I love it. It does lots of other stuff as well. But it's time for a quiz.
Give me one example of another thing it does.
Consult my notes then.
It's not murdering people.
Oh, it's definitely just for murder. So what can we do with it then? So as you go through, you can upgrade different abilities. You unlock like new infection fun. It's not called that.
New infection fun.
So you can use it like a boomerang, chop one person's head off. Use it like a boomerang, chop loads of people's heads off. That's called the aftertouch.
They're not two different things, but okay.
Love it. And then you can charge up your throw and do a power throw. And then you can almost go stealth camo with it. So you will just full metal stealth camo. And then you can use it as a shield.
If I was walking about in the woods, just as an example, and I saw what looked like a man made out of metal, I wouldn't be like, nothing, tree, man made out of metal. Oh yeah, I can't see anything. What do you mean camo made out of metal? What did it look like?
Oh, like it like covers him and then stealth camos, like predators him. Predatorizes him. Like a short amount of time.
Predates him. Got it.
It predates him. Are you ready for your quiz?
So you're going to now ask me questions based on what you've just told me. Is that right?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good news, because all I could tell you is a submarine was hanging about or something. A virus come out. There's a guy with a hand made of a boomerang. He was getting strangled by someone called Robert. And then a thing called Nemesis got in him, and he turned into Colossus, but he can also turn into a predator.
Oh,
You've
got them all right.
Remembered.
Got them all right now. No.
Is that the quiz? No.
The quiz is called "Who's Your Prototype?"
See what we've done.
What I'm going to do is, there's 3 characters, right? I'm going to read out their names and descriptions about them, and you need to tell me if they were from Dark Sector or from Prototype.
Oh, God. I don't remember Prototype that well. But let's see if I do.
Number 1, Alex Mercer. He is the former head researcher at Gentech. After learning that those affiliated with the project were being systematically murdered, Mercer attempted to flee the city with a sample of his own research contained in a vial.
Pretty sure that's Prototype.
It is. He is our main man, Alex Mercer. 1 point.
The main man.
1 point to Will. Things keep banging around in my flat tonight. I think I've got a poltergeist, and something just fell off behind me.
You haven't seen anyone popping out of the telly, have you?
Oh, I hope not. But I made a joke about that to someone recently, and it's clearly karma, isn't it?
Backfired a bit, didn't it?
Yeah. I said, ha ha ha, I'll be coming out your TV set next. Oh, God. Anyway, second one, Elizabeth Green. Highly unstable individual. Not all Elizabeths are. Although whether this was solely due to the effects of the virus or if it was due to her experiences are unknown. She has accepted the infection and is willing to spread the virus regardless of human loss. A bit like some of the people out on the streets at the moment, it seems.
Timely. Well done.
Elizabeth Green.
I think it's... I think you're trying to fool me. I think that's Prototype as well.
It is. It is. Last one. Nadia Sudek was a military put my teeth back in. Was a military prodigy and the youngest agency operative ever commissioned for fieldwork. In her dying words, she apologizes for having caused the virus.
I mean, you've said agency. You told me he's from the CIA. I'm going to go with the game that I think you've brought this week, which I remember is called Dark Sector.
Yeah! You got top points in Who's Your Prototype? How do you feel?
Pretty vindicated, not remembering Prototype at all. I need to play that game again.
It's a great game. It's a great game.
I think I've got a copy of it still somewhere. I don't know where it is. But it was very good.
So there's a lot of similarities between Prototype and Dark Sector. Dark Sector, I think, very much set me up for... I love Prototype in its own right, but there were many themes of Dark Sector that when I started playing Prototype and when I started seeing trailers of it, I was like, oh, I know I like this. So it was almost an evolution of that. So there's a strong similarity between the black light virus from Prototype and the technocyte virus from Dark Sector, in that it kind of it's a plague-like infection, but also that sort of metallic non-organic element to it. Like, it doesn't look organic, it's like that metallic kind of. And that the first symptom of each of the viruses is this kind of metallic crust. But yeah, so when asked about a sequel in 2008, Stephen Sinclair of Digital Extreme stated that although there was nothing definitive planned, they would love to do one, and that the original Dark Sector only scratched the surface of the character and weapons potential, which I completely agree with. I think the sort of the thing about Dark Sector was that there was just so much that you wanted to be able to do, and once you'd kind of finished the first game, you just wanted to go back and be even more badass with, because as the game went on, his infection just grew, right? And you wanted to know more of what he was capable of.
So at that point, this was the era of like PS3 and Xbox 360, where you had, a lot of those superhero mutation kind of games. So obviously, Prototype, Infamous being the other big franchise. Do you think that they didn't do or I assume they didn't do a sequel?
No, there was no sequel to Dark Sector, sadly.
Do you think that's because of the popularity of Infamous at that point?
That's a really good point.
Because they made a Prototype too, but I don't remember it being as popular as the first one.
I didn't play the second one. There was a second one.
Let me just double check that I'm not made it up in my head.
Because I'm sure the bad guy in the second one, or the bad gal, actually, sorry, is Elizabeth.
Oh no, there was a Prototype too. Yeah, I didn't imagine it. It's all good.
So what I'll leave you with is Jamie's fact. So he literally just hot off the press sent this through, so I've not read it. He could be telling me to shut up and research it myself. You put, that Glaive game. Let me think.
As if Glaive is a well-known thing. Oh, it's just one of those Glaive games, when you got like things comes out of your arm and it's like a boomerang. I don't know where he's from, but there you go.
It's like a batarang. So Digital Extremes, who made it, now makes a very popular free-to-play Warframe. So that's probably what came next.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But they also made the largely overlooked Pariah in the original Xbox era, which I somewhat liked. And they made the 360 era Star Trek tie-in that was based on the J.J. Abrams reboot movie. No one remembers that game exists. Warframe is similar enough to Dark Sector in almost every way. It's like a semi-sequel, but it is also multiplayer.
Okay.
There was a multiplayer. I might have to play Warframe then.
Right.
There was a multiplayer mode in Dark Sector, which, like I said, I never played, but it was either, if I remember correctly, it was either very like how Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th are now, those kind of survival horror games where one of you is the overpowered, one of you is Hayden, the main guy with all his powers, and then the rest of you are soldiers. So one of you's overpowered and can take them all out, and the others are kind of either hiding or trying to all work together to take out Hayden. Or I can't remember, there was two modes, but I can't remember the second one. I think it was that all of you played as Hayden.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I never played the multiplayer. But I might have to play it. I might have to give Warframe a try.
Warframe.
Yeah. But that is my 2008 PlayStation 3. 3 cheers for Sweet Revenge, Dark Sector. What you got for me, William?
Liz, I've got a corker here. I've got a plethora of notes up on the screen here. I'm pretty pumped. So, clue-wise, let me think this through. So, how can I do this? It's tricky.
What does it sound like? What does the title sound like? Like for Dark Sector, I'd have said Hannibal Lecter.
It's too easy because it's a short one.
Zool.
It's not Zool. I've done Zool. So, clue-wise, it is in the first-person shooter genre.
Really? That's unusual for you.
Yeah, it's highly influential and very important to
Doom.
said genre.
Doom.
It's not Doom. And yeah, it represented a big leap forward for first-person shooters. You remember when I covered Star Wars Dark Forces the other day, well, the other episode, whenever it was, that I mentioned that that represented a kind of a bookend between billboard flat 3D with vaguely real 3D polygonal environments. This is the next leap forward. You should be able to get it from that.
I'm kind of thinking Halo.
It's not Halo.
Doom, Halo. I'd say Wolfenstein, but that's not a short, snappy name.
It's not. It's
Bearing
also
in
way
mind,
before Zoom.
like, first-person shooters are not my genre.
Okay. Would it help if I told you that Trent Reznor's Nine Inch Nails worked on the music?
I know he worked on a first-person shooter.
I don't think
It
you really
wasn't
get it.
Blood, was it? Because you
It wasn't
mentioned
Blood.
You've
Yeah,
mentioned
Blood was
it
also
before.
in that kind of 2D flat style.
I love Trent Reznor. I'm going to kick
He
myself.
really is.
I bet, yeah, I'll know it now. Of course. Duh. Yeah. I actually played this game. And you put that so beautifully.
Quake.
Oh, look at that. It's beautiful.
Big motherfucking box. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to unbox for you.
Can't deny Quake. I have played it. I have enjoyed it. Yes.
What did you play it upon?
Gosh, like it might have been Quake 2 actually, because it wasn't like the old Windows 95, but it wasn't much later.
Okay, there's probably Quake 2. So let me tell you a little bit about Quake.
Yeah, tell me.
This beautiful
It's a lovely logo as well, isn't it?
Such a good logo. So Quake was probably the first kind of proper sequel or new franchise after Doom 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to take kind of a big step forward. So they've been working on this new engine at id Software. id, as you can see right here.
Lovely id.
Oh,
look at that Dolph.
Look at that Dolph. So yeah, I mean they were making a new engine. They wanted it to be a fully 3D, and it was meant to originally be a really detailed RPG. It wasn't meant to be a shooter.
Really?
Yeah. So they planned this kind of complex, detailed interactions in this kind of RPG and kind of fantasy world. There's this kind of thing that gets bandied around anywhere you look up Quake. You'll say, "Oh, do you remember the screenshot? There was a screenshot of part of the environment looking up into the sky, and there's a dragon." And you were like, "Oh, is there going to be a dragon flying about?" And then the dragon never made it into the game because they realized they can actually figure out what to do with it, or something like that. I'm probably getting that wrong. Sorry, Ed.
They could have made a game of that film where Sean Connery plays the dragon. No, not that one. The one, Reign of Fire. That's what I'm thinking of. You know where the dragon take over London.
Reign of Fire.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm one of 3 people that loves Reign of Fire.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It's Christian Bale and McConaughey, isn't it?
Yeah, I got it mixed up with Dragonheart. I'm sorry.
Yes,
not to be confused with Dragonheart. Anyway, sorry. Please continue.
So they wanted to make a 3D game, and they were trying to make an RPG, and kind of time went on. Time was ticking away, Liz, and so they basically ended up falling back on what they did best, which of course is first-person shooters. So Quake kind of retains that similar kind of vibe of demonic kind of style things, but it also builds in a really kind of gothic, dark fantasy kind of style as well.
Yeah.
They had this basic story, and I'm going to read you the introduction story because in the little booklet they've got the story, which is right here.
Love a story.
I'm going to read it to you right now. So there's 2 headings: background and prelude to destruction. So background: you get the phone call at 4 a.m. By 5:30 you're in the secret installation. The commander explains tersely, "It's about the slipgate device. Once we perfect these, we'll be able to use them to transport people and cargo from one place to another instantly." Instantly there is in italics. An enemy codenamed Quake is using his own slipgates to insert death squads inside our bases to kill, steal, and kidnap.
I said enemy.
The hell of it is... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was thinking out loud. Just saying, so the enemy is called Quake. Sorry,
Yeah, I hadn't actually realised that until I read the book for this show.
I thought, yeah.
So, they're sending them into the bases, stealing, kidnapping, and then he goes on to say, "The hell of it is, we have no idea where he's from. Our top scientists think Quake's not from Earth, but another dimension.
Oh, that's cool.
They say Quake's preparing to unleash his real army, whatever that is. You're our best man. This is Operation Counter-Strike, and you're in charge. Find Quake and stop him, or it. You have full authority to requisition anything you need." Love this bit. "If the eggheads are right, all of our lives are expendable."
Oh no.
So yeah, that's your background.
So
Setting the
Quake
scene.
Quake is like a guy. He's like king of the underworld, not Quake is not the name of the army.
I can only assume it's short for Quentin Ake, but I'm not sure. Codename Quake. I don't know. It's the first I've heard of him when I read this
Love the
book.
name Quentin as well. It's such a nice name.
Quentin Ake. So the final bit, prelude to destruction. While scouting the neighborhood, I love this bit. You've gone onto the secret military base, but then you've just wandered off to do a bit of scouting around the neighborhood, as if there's like a residential area or something.
He wants to buy some bread or something.
Yeah, he's just popped out for 20 Rothmans. While scouting the neighborhood, you hear shots back at the base. Damn, that Quake bastard works fast. I love this. Who wrote this? So good. He heard about Operation Counter-Strike and hit first. Racing back, you see the place is overrun. You're almost certainly the only survivor. I mean, don't check.
Yeah, you might be. Carry on.
Yeah. Operation Counter-Strike is over, except for you. You know the heart of the installation holds a slip gate. So it's like a teleporter. Since Quake's killers came through, it's still, I love this, it's still set to his dimension. They've just dialed it.
What dimension setting?
Like,
God, that would be amazing.
It's at 55. That's probably Quentin Ake's dimension.
Is a Counter-Strike...
Sorry?
Is a Counter-Strike a army term, or is that a play at the Counter-Strike game? Or is
no, I mean that's probably where Counter-Strike maybe the name came from, because obviously that was developed in future iterations of this engine. So but yeah, in general terms, a Counter-Strike is just referred to as a fight back.
Oh, okay. Like retaliation.
Term. Yeah, exactly. So still set to his dimension. Brilliant. Check. You can use it to get loose in his hometown. Maybe you can get to the asshole personally. You pump around into your shotgun and get moving. And that's the story of Quake.
That's like they're going to go have a party together. Get loose in your neighborhood with Quentin Ake.
Do you know I was telling you about the old car map where they just read you stories? I'm thinking maybe I apply with that.
Yeah.
In a soothing voice, you get the phone call at 4 a.m. You're in the secret installation. You just soothe people to sleep with stories from Quake.
I think that'd be lovely.
Yeah.
I think you should go for it. So who's your main man in
So your main man is known as the Ranger, or just Ranger. Not great, but the other one was just known as Doom Guy. So not much of a big leap to
his
the
last
Ranger.
name Ranger?
As in like Geraldine Ranger. Don't know. Just Ranger in the script. So a bit of context. I first got this game in the form of something called Q-Test. So Q-Test was like a beta version, or like a pre-shareware release that they put online. And it's weird. I was watching footage of it earlier, and it looks similar to the release one, but like some of the weapons are different, and they haven't quite finished the UI and stuff, and some of the enemies and textures are missing and things. But like I remember getting that version of it, and that being my memory of Quake, weirdly. Like I played it this morning just to kind of get back into it. Because you can get you can still get the shareware, and it's got like the Windows installer and everything. So you can play like the first episode, which is great. then I've got the disc, so I upgraded and started playing more of it. But yeah, Q-Test kind of came out as a kind of just like a big kind of sploosh. Look at this thing that we've made. Like it's a full 3D engine, blowing everything else away. And there's a bit in, because Duke Nukem had come out around the same time, and that was still in the kind of 2D billboard graphics that face the camera style. There's some line in Duke Nukem where he's like, "Ain't afraid of no Quake." There's like an earthquake happening at the start because it's set in like San Francisco or LA or something. And they make a joke about that because like obviously everyone had heard about it coming out. And I think that was like 95 when they dropped Q-Test, and then 96 when it got released. I think that's right. But yeah, it was just like really such a bizarre feeling to be in a proper 3D world. It's definitely the first game that I'd seen that was actually completely 3D, and that you could actually look around. Because if you bear in mind Doom and the genre of Doom clones, which are all the other 2D things like Blood, Duke Nukem, Heretic, and some of these other things, they all had very like the perspective of the 3D levels kind of was odd and shifting because you weren't actually in geometric space. There were kind of planes of 3D that were projected at certain angles. I'm not really telling this in a particularly technical manner, but or accurate, but but this was like proper 3D. There were actual lights, things that went on and off. And there was verticality to the levels, so that you could actually jump and get onto different bits, and there were lifts that went up and down and all kinds of stuff. And there was water that you could swim down in.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and like they just put so much into it. And it's kind of well known for having quite different episodes. And I was watching this interview with one of the guys. I think it was Tim Willits I was watching the interview with. He's one of the designers, and he was explaining that there were 4 designers on the game. So John Romero, who is one half of. Sorry,
just 4.
Oh yeah. Which I think it's a team of around 9 people.
Wow.
So there's probably a few more than that. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 programmers, 4 designers, 2 artists, 3 biz devs, and a couple of support people. But yeah, so John Romero, like one of the 2 Doom well-known people, and Romero was a designer. Carmack's a programmer. Carmack sort of famous for, he works for Oculus these days, but he did id Tech for years. And so these 4 different designers. So it was John Romero, a younger guy called American McGee, who's known for American McGee's Alice, of course. So he was a young designer who joined id around Doom 2 and helped them finish Doom 2. And Sandy Peterson, who was the guy who was really into H.P. Lovecraft and brought that whole kind of vibe to Quake. And then a guy called Tim Willits. And he was saying that because they all had, their own sort of style they wanted to express, they ended up just making Quake into 4 distinct different episodes. And the Slipgate concept just kind of came in to kind of just say, let's just have a teleporter and they'll just go to each of these things. And that's how it's going to go down. So they ended up just going with that. And then the story of Quake, and obviously the gorgeous kind of bullet logo, was where they kind of brought all of this stuff together into a kind of, it's kind of weird, it's kind of fantasy, but it's kind of gothic, but it's kind of, it's just kind of hellish as well, because there's this whole like theme of nails. And obviously 9 Inch Nails did the music, Trent Reznor. You have a nail gun instead of a machine gun. And this is like, it's a bullet, but it's also a nail, right? So it's just like, it's got all these nice things that kind of thematically tie it together. And then the other revelation was the fact that you were fighting enemies that were obviously 3D as well, and they moved in interesting, unexpected ways. Whereas before in Doom, you were animating the characters, but they weren't really sort of leaping around because it didn't really make any sense to kind of move a sprite, because you couldn't speed up the animation that easily, or if you did, it looked a bit like like old movies where they speed up the footage and you're suddenly running faster and stuff like that. There was a bit of that in Blood, if I remember rightly, where certain sprites were kind of playing a faster frame rate or something, and they just looked a little bit weird. But these enemies, the kind of trade-off was that there were fewer of them could be rendered. So I remember thinking that Quake felt a bit more sparse, but they made up for it with the AI and the fact that they could do interesting things. So like the basic enemy were just like these soldiers who had shotguns, and then you had these kind of leaping demon things, which were just like a big, like creepy dog with a giant like teeth that would just kind of leap around and just sort of claw at you. They were just everything was just like drenched in blood. A very distinct color palette. Like it's remembered for being like this kind of brown.
It does have a very distinct color palette.
Yeah,
I didn't know that's why it was split into 4 different areas with the slip gate. I think that's awesome. But
yeah, so they each have their own kind of area that they focused on.
And did each area, did they design the character? Did they design the enemies? And then who designed Quake? Do you ever see him? Did they all like collaborate on him?
No, so Quake, like this is the thing. I think they were going to work towards that, and I'll allude a bit more to that in a minute. But if I remember right, like the big boss that I can recall was this kind of big, like tentacly Cthulhu-y looking thing that had other things that would fly off of it, and it had a name that I've suddenly forgotten. I thought I'd written it down in my notes. But you had it was called like Shrub Nagrath or something. Oh yeah, there you go. It's there you go. I found it. So you collect a rune at the end of each episode, and then you go and confront this demon. I'm remembering this Cthulhu like guy, I think from the end of the first episode, which is just like a big lava demon thing, and you're like running around this thing around it and basically pressing these switches to electrocute like through it. It's super cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, but from each level there were pretty much the same range of enemies. There was like I say, the soldier, the thing that leaps at you. There was this big guy I think he's called the ogre, and he's effectively just like a mix of like Edgar from Men in Black, like the Edgar, your skin is hanging off your bones. That guy. I love him. And like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw. So he had like a chainsaw.
Sounds awful.
And then a grenade launcher. Yeah, he's a prick, massive prick, basically. But yeah, he's covered in blood and he's got like an apron. Maybe I've imagined the apron.
Some cooking?
Texas Chainsaw thing. Yeah, he's just been frying up, and then you turn up, and he's like, "Oh shit!" But yeah, he had a grenade launcher. So like one of the first enemies you encounter after a couple of soldiers is this dude with a chainsaw and a grenade launcher, and you're like,
"He's like, who's this guy?
Give me a break! It's OP as fuck." And he's just like, "Patring, patring," and starts firing grenades at you, and you're like, "I've never even seen a grenade. I don't know how to dodge." Because like there wasn't a whole lot of sort of full 3D movement before that. So you were like, wait, what is, like, we didn't really have a like strongly recognized strafe mechanic for everything. So we're used to sort of walking back and forward and around with the keys in Doom. Yeah. Whereas this thing, you're like, oh, I've got to move and this and that. And it's like it's also the first game that had mouse. I think the first game that had mouse look as well. So you couldn't completely mouse look, but you could hold down a key or a button and then mouse look, which is a bit awkward because you're trying to shoot as well. But they basically did like auto aiming for things like, say there's a flying enemy that's like a ghost that like spits stuff at you. But if you're shooting in the right vector forward, then it will shoot, it will get them in the sky. But you could also sort of aim up to get like a switch or whatever that's up high. So they kind of were just sort of, they got the mechanic of mouse look and they were like, okay, well, let's sort of work in a kind of easy way so that people won't be like sort of confused by it because it's a new convention, right? So you could mouse look, you could aim, you could shoot, Leatherface guy. And then, so the enemies just sort of ramped up from there. The other cool thing was that they had these zombie things, but you couldn't really kill them with anything except for an explosive weapon, so a grenade or a rocket. And you'd shoot them. Well, no, they basically, you shot them a couple of times with a shotgun, they'd fall down. You're like, great, got him. And then they'd basically get back up and start throwing parts of their body at you. I just killed this guy. This is fucked up. But so the only way you could get them was to like grenade launch and actually blow them apart.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that Quake was kind of known for, right? Was like having giblets of bodies just kind of flying around. Like if you shot them just enough to kill them, then they would just kind of die and have an animation of falling over dead. But then if you shot them with something, they would just fly apart. And so as a I don't know, what was I, 13 when this came out, I was just like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Giblets everywhere.
Yeah, as a loser teen boy.
It's amazing to like think about these mechanics that were incredibly risky and difficult to implement that are now what we see as standard.
Yeah.
Exactly. At the time, it was kind of like,
yeah, let's set up a bunch of conventions all at once.
Yeah.
That's what I'm so impressed by, is just the thought that went into not only creating the 3D technology for it, but also the kind of the usability of it as well. That just it felt great, like the motion of walking in 3D, what we now refer to as head bob, is just, it's really fluid. I was playing it this morning, I was like, this feels like it's kind of timeless. Like it's not like when you go back to like some NES games or something, and you're like, I remember this a lot better, but it's really slow. This was just like fluid and great. And granted, I was playing there's a thing called GL Quake, which basically OpenGL accelerated 3D graphics of Quake, so it looks a lot better. Maybe it runs a bit better than when I played it back in the day on my Pentium 75 or whatever it was. But yeah, so it had such an amazing influence. It had this, 4 great designers working at the kind of top of their game, pun intended. And then it had Trent Reznor doing the music. And he even, little known fact, he also did the voice. So all of the like, that's Trent Reznor grunting. Bless him.
Love Trent Reznor. He's just such a gem of the planet, that man. It just sounds like a perfect marriage of, it sounds like a team that just all played to their strengths, but then created one cohesive unit from all of those strengths.
It's an absolute unit, you're right.
Yeah, an absolute unit. Just all amazing talent and strength into one beautiful, gory, exploding masterpiece. And
that's what I love really about, because GT Interactive, who published this, evidently had something to do with the advertising, which I'll talk about in a minute as well, because I absolutely love the advertising. And its confidence is what really comes through in the box. Because first of all, they've got this, which I can focus in on. PC Zone's review is on the front. 96%. Obviously, that's going to come out 96%. A work of pure genius. Now that comes out. It's a sticker on the back of the box, so you can assume that they sent a review copy to PC Zone. Everybody had played this before it came out because of shareware, and if you're not from the PC community circa 90s, shareware was basically early internet sharing a demo of your game, and there was an opportunity to I think you could dial a number or something, you could pay money for certain sharewares. They'd put a message up at the end of the shareware saying, hey, if you like this game, it's coming out soon, or maybe here's a way of kind of donating, or here's a way to kind of send off for the full version. And so I got lots of games in kind of shareware form, but I got the Quake shareware, I'm pretty sure, through like a PC Zone cover CD. And it was just like this thing where everyone was like, oh, have you got this demo? Like, this is the most amazing new thing. There's like a leap forward in technology. It's kind of like when you, like, to me, it was like when I first tried out when VR kind of came back with like the Oculus Rift, I was kind of like, it was janky and it made you feel a bit sick in some of the demos, like the chair thing. Oh no. But it was definitely one of those moments where you were like, oh wow, okay, this is going to be something. And when I went, I was very lucky to go to Valve and try out the what would become the Vive in the next couple of years. But seeing those demos were like those feelings of, right, this is the next thing. And Quake was my first next thing that I remember just thinking like, oh, okay. Even to the point where my sister, who had kind of gotten over the novelty of us having a computer at home and got bored. We used to play Zool together back when we had an Amstrad, and then she was like, computers, whatever. She came back to computers and we played Quake because it was just kind of a revelation. And it would have been one of those things where I'd said to my parents, oh, I've got to see this. And they'd been like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Why are you excited by this? This is worrying. It's all right, Mum. I'll turn it into an illustrious career one day. So, what I was saying was, you got the review on the front. There it is. It's rated 15, obviously, a bit gory. But what I love about the back is I'm going to read it to you, and then you tell me what you notice about this.
Okay.
So it says, Quake. Exceeding even their own legendary high standards, id have created a unique masterwork of mesmeric brilliance. Quake. Amazing gameplay, gorgeous graphics, the greatest, slickest multiplayer scheme ever developed, and amazing sound effects combine to provide the ultimate indispensable gaming experience. Quake features an all-new state-of-the-art 3D engine, id's first fully developed title since Doom 2. Experience the Quake phenomenon at first hand. You will not be disappointed.
I really like it.
What do you notice about that piece of text, Liz?
That it's all true.
It's true, but it's not attributed to anyone. They wrote that about themselves.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about it.
It's not a review. It's just like, this is brilliant. And
yeah,
I really
like it. They're really
the publisher
proud.
being like, we're not id, but they are, and they've made this, and we're trying to sell it for them. I love the fact that the publisher are like, this is fucking great. You are gonna love this.
I didn't read the back of the box for Dark Sector, so I do it as a comparison.
Go on then, tell me what they say.
Become the ultimate weapon. The virus, the source of your pain. You can't feel pain. Your enemy, your power. Unleash the deadly power of the glaive and become the hero. Contains strong bloody violence.
I'd never heard the word glaive until right now. Like, this is very surprising to me. Oh, it's interesting how. So yeah, I just really liked. I wanted to read you that because I was just like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh, because they got PC Zone on the front, it's going to be like PC format or PC Gamer or whatever. And I was like, oh no, it's just their opinion.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool. And that's just the start of the marketing. Now, Liz, I'm going to show you. I'm going to attempt to show you, and you're going to be seeing it on the video right now, watching this, because I will have edited it on by then. But the marketing campaign for this game in print was genius, because they didn't show the game at all in the advert. They were so confident that everybody had heard of it and they knew what it was. They just wanted a nice way to kind of remind you that it was around. And I think, I'm going to load my favorite one first. They had 4 slogans that I could remember or I could find via the internet. One was Quake is forever, Quake is everywhere, Quake is good for you, and Quake is for everyone.
Quake is for everyone.
My favorite one is Quake is good for you. And let me try and load this up as a virtual background. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Quake is good for you. And there's a little granny with a Quake pie. Can I get out of the way enough? There we go. And she's got the family round. And there's nothing in the game in this ad at all. Just 2 full-page print, photo set up with extras. Just being like, oh, check out Quake. It's good for you.
I do remember these.
Oh, you remember them? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I do remember.
And then they had Quake is everywhere, which is just...
That's amazing.
The same lady in bikinis. Maybe she's Quake.
Yeah, maybe she's Quake.
She might be Quake. Quentin Ake is a lady. Quinabelle. I don't know. This one you can't really see, but you will do because I'm going to edit it in. But basically, it's a husband and wife. They just got married, and she's got her ring finger up, but it's just a nail going through her finger, like a gold bullet.
What? I don't remember that one.
You're going to see it in the edit.
These are amazing.
And then the last one is I couldn't find a good quality version of this, but just a family gathering around a box of Quake, saying Quake is for everyone. The jumpers are great though. The wrong side. This knitted scenario is just great, and the family are just like, oh, they're so happy the kids have got Quake. It's great.
I like the pie one.
Yeah, the pie is definitely the best.
Yeah, I love it. That's fantastic.
It's pie, wedding, family, and ladies on the beach. But yeah, advertising, absolutely genius. Just great work presumably from GT Interactive. I don't know if the id team had anything to do with the ads, but yeah, what a way to kind of cap off a great game, to have a great marketing campaign as well.
Love it.
Love it.
Thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a lovely trip down memory lane, and you smashed it.
Quentin Aches. Quake.
Quentin Aches. I had no idea that American McGee was involved either.
Yeah, I don't actually know American McGee's real name, but let's just leave it as a mystery. So, Liz, I'd like to know if you, the audience, prefer shooting nails into Edgar from Men in Black, or if you prefer making up an imaginary weapon, pretending it's a real word, the glaive. I think you know what to do.
Oh, that was Nemesis as well. Look.
So he had a glaive as well.
Yeah, that's when you go
called Nemesis.
That's when you go full virus.
Is this This is post.
That's the lady that you got right earlier who caused the virus. Nadia.
Yeah, she's not looking well, is she?
That's Nadia.
Now, is this after Resident Evil 3? Must be.
Yeah,
right?
Resident 3 was 99.
Yeah. So they just were like, well, let's just have another thing called Nemesis.
Nemesis. Oh, that man in the background looks like he's got his tongue sticking out. I don't think it is though.
Or is a duck.
Or is a duck. Or if you prefer a little bit of virus-riddled action,
we should definitely prepare these outros.
I love Dark Sector. It has, in fact, a lot of the games that I bring obviously have like a cult element to them. They are not very often mainstream, but I feel that they are often overlooked and have lots of awesome ideas and are executed beautifully. And I'm going to try Warframe now.
You should try Warframe. Yeah, I hear good things about Warframe. I mean, it's been going for quite a while now, hasn't it? Like, I was always really impressed that they kind of just built up that audience over time. It was something that you just hear about occasionally. It's not like they advertise it a lot. I don't think. But it seems to have quite a cult following. But yeah, I also recommend trying Quake. It's available on Steam.
Are there any Are there any accompaniments to Quake? Because I love a good comic.
I need to totally talk about the kind of lineage of Quake. So Quake was followed up by Quake 2, which went more into this kind of like war kind of thing with these factions where you were warring with a group called the Strog.
I think that was the one I played.
Yeah, probably. And it was cool. Like, I really liked Quake 2. I had a great time with it. But it wasn't as revelatory as Quake 1 because it's new and 3D. But then 3 went all the way back to being purely about multiplayer. It was Quake 3 Arena. And the style went back to a similar vibe to the original Quake as well. This kind of like mix of gothic architecture and demonic enemies and things. or dominant characters, I suppose, in that sense. But in the interview that I was watching that I mentioned earlier, they were explaining that what they felt later that they should have done was to have Quake 3 be the sequel to Quake, and Quake 2 and 4 really be a different franchise with a different name. And they were going to call that Quake 2 War, WOR, which was a reference to something I've forgotten. But yeah, they really had these kind of somewhat distinct franchises or IPs on their hands. And that made a lot of sense to me when I think about the style and everything that was going on with them. But to come back to the multiplayer aspect, Quake spawned quite a big modding community. And it's where you got things like Action Quake, which was just like a big mod, which really changed, what you could do. It also spawned Team Fortress, which would go on to have a sequel, Team Fortress 2, which is kind of like a predecessor to things like Fortnite. And yeah, it inspired a lot of people, and probably got a lot of people into game development as well. It gave me a love for 3D. And so here we are today. But yeah, so vote for Quake. So yeah, I love it.
They're good.
That's a wrap for episode 4.
Vote for Glaive.
Decided.
Vote for Glaive. Watch multiple people's heads at once. Trent Reznor would love it.
This in a minute. I don't think it's a word. I think you've made it up.
Do you think I've just not got my glasses on and it's just said glove all along?
Yeah, the glove on. Oh no!
Oh, it was a glove.
It was called Quack all the time. Didn't know. I just pronounced it Quack. Liz, thanks as always. And we'll see what the audience prefers.
Glaive it a vote.
Glaive it a vote. I haven't got a pun for that. You don't need one. It's Quake. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
And end.
There's a submarine. I think I've got a poltergeist.
Are you having a stroke? Are you all right?
I think I've got a poltergeist.